I want to talk about a dilemma that almost all parents face now, and it's that desire, isn't it, to keep their child safe from harmful activity online, but then the pressure to keep up with others and let them have access to the internet via a smartphone. Well, last year, a couple of parents in England started what's called Smartphone Free Childhood. And that's an initiative that, well, effectively it tries to do what it says on the tin. And it came about after the parents were sort of pressured from their 8-year-olds to get smartphones because everyone else in their class had them. I know it's hard to believe, but children as young as 8 are using phones. So this was a grassroots movement where parents make a pledge to not get a smartphone for their children before the age of 14. Now, it's been extended to Northern Ireland, and Mum Rosalind McLean has signed up to it. Rosalind, good afternoon. This is such a big topic, and whether you're a parent or not, I know a lot of people are talking about the sort of unfettered access to the internet that children seemingly are getting, and they seem to be getting it at younger and younger age. And this is something that you're heavily involved in and trying to combat, or at the very least delay.
Exactly. Look, thank you so much, Anna, for having me on your show. Yes, like you say, our movement, Smartphone Free Childhood, is all about delay. So, increasingly children are getting smartphones younger and younger. Ofcom data shows 24% of 5 to 7-year-olds have a smartphone. And by the time you reach the end of primary school, that is almost all children. But yet 94% of primary school parents polled by Parentkind feel that smartphones are actually harmful for children. So parents are just feeling like they're in this impossible position. Either they give their child something which is really harmful, or they risk their child being completely ostracised and left out at that stage. And I think Smartphone Free Childhood has filled that void, really.
Tell me a little bit more about it then. When did you first hear about it?
I heard about it last Easter, but it had started about 2 months before that. And it just started with 2 mums in England, and their children around 8 and 9, their children's peers were starting to get smartphones, and they thought, hang on, I'm not ready for this. I don't want this. Childhood is too short to be spent on a smartphone. And so they set up a WhatsApp group. One of them put it on her Instagram, and it really went viral. And now there's about 200,000 parents across the UK involved in it. I got involved last April. At that stage, it was quite small in Northern Ireland. I joined the Belfast group, but I'm in North Down, and I couldn't really engage local parents as well. So I set up the Ards North Down group. And it just really grew from there. So many parents feel so relieved when they realise other parents feel the same. And actually, we can do something about it. We can come together and we can all say, when the time comes, we will first of all give our child a more basic phone, a phone that you can phone them, send them a text, which is, very useful, especially for child getting a bus to school or something. But we don't need to give them a supercomputer in their pocket, which gives them, access to the internet 24/7.
So this works, and I suppose it really can only work when there is a buy-in from a lot of parents. And
that's right.
People are saying yes and signing on to, I guess, what is effectively a pact. Would that be fair?
Yeah. So what we call it the Parent Pact, and it's a voluntary anonymous pact that you make with parents in your child's school to say, I won't give my child a smartphone until at least 14. I won't give them social media access until at least 16. And so you can, if your listeners, you can just Google Smartphone Free Childhood, the Parent Pact, and you can find your child's school on that. And then you will just sign your child up, make that pact, and then you can see the results at your school's level and by year group. So it won't give any names of anyone who has signed up, but you can go in and see, there's 7 children in my child's class that have been signed up to that. And that really helps parents when, a child is maybe coming home and saying, I'm the only one without a phone. And actually you can say, no, there's about 10 other families in your year group and they're making the same choice as we are.
I suppose it's very important to talk to your child and young person about this as well. Now, while they might necessarily buy into it as vigorously as perhaps you would like them to, I suppose being on the same page and explaining to them why you're doing this and that you have done this is a key part of this.
Absolutely. And I think, we need to be really planting those seeds really early with our children. And, my kids are very aware of, I'm obviously not telling them all of the content that I'm trying to protect them from in the online world at their young age. But yeah, absolutely. Conversations are so important. And look, we all know that other parents will make different choices. And so our children will be exposed to things. That's just a reality. And I think, it's so important at any, level on when we're talking about anything on the internet or parenting, that our children know they can come and talk to us, that there's always that open dialogue there. Yeah.
You don't want your children to, seek it out in other areas and feel because it's not something that you're supportive of, that if they do access something or they see something, then that they can't tell you because it's wrong.
Yeah, no, and look, our children will, that's just the reality. They will see things, so absolutely they need to know they can come and talk to us about that, and that they're not going to get in trouble, but actually having that really open dialogue with our children is so important.
As much as we would love to wrap them up in cotton wool and protect them from everything, the reality of life is that you can't, and that's all part of growing up. Does this need more than parent buy-in? Does this need more on a societal level from, for example, schools, politicians, government action?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. It's really all of society needs to be working on this together. So, we as parents can do what we can in coming together and delaying. But, we need to make sure that our secondary schools, for example, are fully smartphone free. And actually research shows that only 11% of schools in the UK are truly smartphone free. And so, it's important that schools aren't asking children to take out devices to use in class, for example. And we've worked with the Department of Education on, their recent guidance. And, we call on the schools to embrace that guidance. Smartphones are so distracting. Setting aside all of the, dangerous content that our kids can be exposed to online, it's just a distraction that is not needed in schools. That's one element. And then, look, social media companies, they need to be held to account as well. And that's where our politicians and legislators, policymakers need to come in as well. As parents, we can't do this alone. And really, it needs all of us to be working together. And there's also, a huge role for online safety education as well, which, is happening, but, more can be done there as well, so that when our children do end up with a smartphone or social media, that they have the tools and that they're ready to deal with that. But once they are more mature and they're more ready for it.
Do keep in touch. Let us know how you get on, and all the best.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.